My name is Emma, and this is my story, a story of dreams, struggles, and the harsh realities of life. I'm 32, working as a manager in a reputable company. 6 years ago, I married David, an engineer in a local factory. We were young, in love, and hopeful about our future together. I remember sitting in our cozy living room one evening, the fading light of the day casting soft shadows around us. David was fiddling with his phone, a habit that seemed to consume him more each day. "David, can we talk about something important?" I asked, turning off the TV to catch his attention. He looked up, a bit distracted. "Sure, Em, what's up?" I took a deep breath, gathering my thoughts. "You know, we've been trying for a baby for so long. I've been saving money from my salary and the rent from the apartment I inherited from Dad. We have a good amount now for our future child's upbringing and education." David nodded, his expression unreadable. "Yeah, I know. You've been great with the savings and all." The conversation was interrupted by a knock at the door. It was David's parents, Joan and Mike, coming in with their usual air of expectancy. They lived in a small house and often hinted about wanting something bigger. "Emma, dear, we've been thinking," Joan started, settling herself on the couch. "It's about time we looked for a bigger house, you know, something more comfortable." I exchanged a quick glance with David. "Joan, we've talked about this. David and I are saving for our future child. We can't really afford to help with a house right now." Mike chimed in, his tone a bit harsh. "But you guys have been trying for a child for years. Who knows if that will ever happen?" I felt a sting in my heart at his words. David stayed silent, his eyes fixed on the floor. "Mike, that's not fair," I said firmly. "We're still hopeful. And we need to plan for that future." The evening ended with an awkward goodbye. As they left, I turned to David, looking for some support. But he just shrugged, avoiding my gaze. "It's complicated, Em. They're my parents, after all." I nodded, feeling a growing distance between us. "But we have our own family to think about, David. Our future." The days leading up to the big reveal were filled with a mix of anticipation and nervousness for me. I had always dreamed of the moment I'd tell David we were going to be parents. After years of trying, the positive result on the pregnancy test felt like a miracle. That evening, as I waited for David to come home, I practiced how I would break the news. Would I just blurt it out, or make it a grand reveal? The possibilities played out in my mind, each ending with David sweeping me up in a hug, overjoyed at our impending parenthood. But life, as I was about to learn, doesn't always follow the script you write in your head. David arrived home later than usual, his footsteps heavy, his shoulders slumped. The lines on his face seemed deeper, like he was carrying the weight of the world. "David, you're home," I said, my voice quivering with excitement. "I have some incredible news." He barely looked up as he dropped his bag by the door. "What's up, Em?" His voice was tired, devoid of the usual warmth I was accustomed to. Taking a deep breath, I held up the pregnancy test. "I'm pregnant, David. We're going to have a baby." I expected joy, surprise, maybe even tears. What I didn't expect was the look of sheer panic that crossed his face. "Pregnant," he muttered, more to himself than to me. "Now? This is really bad timing." My heart sank. "Bad timing? David, we've wanted this for years. Why would it be bad timing?" He sank into the couch, covering his face with his hands. After a long pause, he looked up at me, his eyes filled with a mix of regret and resignation. "Em, I've done something. The money we saved, the money for our future child. I gave it to my parents. For a new house. And I took out a loan to cover the rest." His words hit me like a physical blow. "You did what? Our savings? How could you do that without talking to me?" I thought we weren't going to have a child, Emma. I wanted to do something for my parents, he stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. But what about us? Our dreams? Our plans? I felt a mix of anger and disbelief churning inside me. David stood up, pacing the room in agitation. I don't know, Em. I just didn't think it would happen. We can't afford a child now, not with the loan and everything. Tears blurred my vision. This was supposed to be one of the happiest moments of our life, and instead, it was unraveling at the seams. So, what are you saying? That we can't have this baby? My voice broke with the weight of my emotions. I don't know, Emma. I just don't know, he said, his voice hollow. That night, as I lay in bed, the reality of my situation slowly sank in. The joy of my pregnancy was overshadowed by David's betrayal. Our savings, the foundation of our future, was gone. The man I had shared my dreams with had made a choice that shattered them in an instant. As I lay there, feeling the first faint stirrings of life inside me, I realized my journey ahead was filled with uncertainty and fear. The tension in the house had been thick enough to cut with a knife ever since David confessed about the money. Each day that passed was a silent echo of the chaos brimming inside me. I was pregnant, isolated, and betrayed by David, the man I once saw as my partner in everything. One evening, I couldn't take the silence and the distance anymore. I needed answers, clarity, something to make sense of the mess we were in. David was lounging on the couch, lost in some TV show, a temporary escape from our reality. David, we need to talk. Now, I said, my voice trembling with a cocktail of anger and fear. He barely looked at me, a sigh escaping him. What now, Emma? This whole situation. It's unbearable. I'm carrying our child, David. Our future. And all you do is avoid me. I was almost shouting, the pent-up frustration pouring out. David turned off the TV, his face set in a hard line. What do you want me to say, Emma? That everything's going to be okay? Because it won't. We're in deep trouble here. And whose fault is that? You gave away our future for what? To please your parents? The words were bitter, each one tasting of betrayal. He stood up abruptly, his voice rising. Maybe having this baby isn't the best idea right now, Emma. Have you thought about that? I felt like I'd been punched. Are you telling me to get an abortion? He avoided my gaze, shifting uncomfortably. My parents think it might be for the best. And I think they might be right. I was aghast, tears welling up in my eyes. Your parents? You're taking their advice over what we want. Over what I want. David ran a hand through his hair, frustration etched on his face. I don't know, Emma. We can't afford a baby. We're drowning here. That's no excuse to end a life, David. Our baby's life. My voice broke, the reality of his words sinking in. He turned away, his voice cold and detached. If you're so set on having this baby, then maybe you can't stay here. That hit me like a ton of bricks. You're kicking me out? Your pregnant wife. I don't know, Emma. I just can't deal with this. He was almost yelling now, something I'd never seen him do. That night, I packed my bags through a veil of tears. My home, my marriage, my dreams, all were crumbling around me. I moved into my small apartment on the city outskirts, the one place that was truly mine. But in the midst of the turmoil, a fierce determination took root. I was going to have this baby, with or without David. I was scared, yes, but more than that, I was resolute. This baby was a part of me, and I would do whatever it took to give it a life. The first few weeks in my old apartment were like living in a daze. The walls, once familiar, now echoed with the loneliness of my new reality. I was pregnant, alone, and the future seemed like a dark